And I just want to give people, all the value that they came here for. But for those of you who don't know us, we're Inspire Accountants. We're based in Brisbane in the Valley, but we do work with clients all across Australia. And yeah, we've been around for a bit. Hey, Ben, what would be more than 10 years now? Are we close to 13 now?
I think we'll click over to 13 in January, which is yeah, huge.
Yeah, and in that time we've been lucky enough to been featured on a few places and receive a few awards, as you can see on the screen there. But our proudest achievement is actually for our clients. We've been able to save up to $46 million in tax savings through our proactive tax and accounting service that we provide. And yeah, it's still counting. We've still got clients joining us and adding to the tally whenever we chat to them. But $46 million. I remember the days of looking, to save 500,000 was a number for us when we first started, man. So it's been a long way. So yeah, for those of you who don't know us, welcome for the first time. And if you're watching the recording of this, thanks also for registering today. We do quite a bit of the webinars like this. So, but today's topic, obviously everyone's kind of waiting to hear about that. But you might see the familiar face before we get started. Here is I just want to introduce you to Benny Walker. He's the founder of Inspire. Back when you were 23, Ben, and what, zero kids? Maybe newly married during that time.
Uh, no, I think I was married this is going to sound bad that I don't remember that instantly, but I think it was 2015. So I started Inspired 2 years ish before we got married.
So in a way, it's longer than your marriage. Inspire.
It is.
It
That's
is. Yeah.
correct.
That's factually correct. But yeah, Ben's not only an amazing mentor to myself, but an amazing founder for our team. He's helped us through the last 13 years at Inspire with a wealth of his knowledge, with 18 years in the industry and writing a couple books as well. You can see behind him, you get the purple and green books there. He's written Wealth for Life, and it's all sorted as well. But one thing I know for sure, Ben, a big part of what you believe in is family. So hence you can see we're actually one short, aren't we, in that photo, Benny?
We are. Yes, we are. Vera
Yeah.
was born after these shots, so we can't forget about her. She's 18 months old now, so I definitely need to update those photos.
Yeah. And, and one of the reasons why we share this stuff is also, it can feel a little bit like you're talking to an accountant. And one of the things that we try not to be is just an accountant to you. We like to build relationships. So if you do have any questions, you want to chat to us, we're just normal human beings. So feel free to ask those questions in the chat box. But yeah, we're looking forward to run through some stuff for you.
Beautiful. And just because it feels slightly awkward introducing ourselves, I will introduce you if you're okay with that, Riz.
Yeah, please do.
Alrighty. Well, yes. Well, I think in terms of this webinar, I'm just here to look pretty. Riz is the main star of this show, so really grateful for that, Riz. But Riz is one of our partners at Inspire and a chartered accountant, and joined Inspire over 9 years, almost 10 years ago now, which has yeah, seems like a lifetime, mate. It's been a good journey.
Has been.
And Riz is actually one of the most significant contributors to that $46 million. We started tracking that tax saving tally since 2015, but just even last financial year alone, Riz has helped his clients save just over 3 mil in the financial year that just finished a handful of months ago. And you've got both your children in this photo, indirectly through Fiona, uh, with a photo of her and beautiful August there. So yes,
We'll catch up to you one day, man. Two more to go, maybe. But yeah, thanks for that, man. And I think the today's topic is also important. In the last 10 years, I've been able to help a lot of business clients through their journey in business. And one of the things that as part of a business journey is also the exit, where you say goodbye to your business in the form of sale or exit, whatever you want to call it. And it is it's a big event. It's a really big event, and it should be taken seriously. But also, it takes a lot of time to get to that point as well. A lot of preparation, I should say, that to get up to that point. Kind of like selling a house. You wouldn't sell a house without first painting the outside and mowing the grass and maybe staging it to make it sale ready. So and in business it's the same. There's certain things that you should be looking at if you're planning to exit in the next few years. And funny enough, in the last, especially after COVID, we've seen an uptick of that happening. A lot of people have decided to exit from their business, and some of them are still either part owners or still working in the business after the sale, depending on the deal that they go through. But the fundamentals are very much the same across the board when we talk about business value and how to get your business sale ready. So there's a couple of things we're going to run through today to make sure that you have a sense of where it's at. It's going to be, obviously each business is going to be different, but the fundamentals today that we're going to share you it's going to be a bit more high level, but it's going to apply to your business as well. But what I do recommend at the end is for you guys to get in touch with us if you do want to have a more one-on-one approach or conversation around your business and your business sale journey and where you're at as well. The important thing to understand is each industry will have its own nuances, right? So someone who's in manufacturing wouldn't have the same valuation process or industry benchmarks than someone who was in, let's say, an allied health business. There are different nuances to each evaluating those business and getting those business sale ready. But today we're going to cover a few things. What are some drivers that we know as business owners that makes it attractive for investors or purchasers or buyers to look at your business? We're going to look at some simple ways to boost your profitability and strengthen your cash flow as well. And also we're going to look at a practical framework to lifting your business value. And I like the last point here, the real red flags buyers look for and how to avoid them. And this is, again, I like to use the analogy of a house because it's a lot simpler, but kind of like a house, buyers are going to look through your business. They're going to try to understand what are the things that they are going to they're going to have to take over and look after you have left the business itself. So like a house, you might do due diligence. When the business sale, you do the same thing, and you might go through and do like a building impact to make sure there's no cracks in the wall and the foundation that might really severely impact the valuation of that asset itself. So those red flags are things that we're going to dive deep into today. Now, I should say as well, we do use a software to help us get to a point in the business valuation, which I'll talk a little bit more about later. When we talk about business valuation, we need to look at what the industry is doing as well. Again, kind of similar like a house. How do you determine the right market value for that? You do a bit of research around what's been sold around the area. Doesn't mean you're in the same suburb. You would have the same price just because you have a comparable asset. Even streets differ in value. So where it's located really makes a difference. Similar to your business, your industry, at what stage your business is at. For instance, your involvement in the business, how much or how little is going to change all of that. So the software that we use is called B-Star, and what it does, it has this market data for us to be able to compare and benchmark. And that's the key thing that we need to look through, is that we need to be benchmarking our business. Now, what I go through today also will cover around where you're at, how to determine where you're at when we benchmark that business, your business against the market or your industry, I should say. And obviously, what are some levers that you can pull to make sure that we can increase that valuation or get closer to that benchmark value of businesses in the same industry. So use the chat box if there is any questions, and if you want to stop and ask questions, just feel free to do that. But the first thing I want to try to introduce first is to start talking about the basics of business valuation, because what I find as well is a lot of business owners, if you haven't sold a business before, there's a big knowledge gap of what makes a business value. And this is a little bit interactive, but I'd love for people to start thinking on why did you start your business. Now, if you can hear me and you're participating today, if you could just take maybe a minute here just to think about why did you start your business. And I'm going to give you some options so that we don't get too philosophical. There's usually three things, three reasons, and I'm not going to force you to write those three reasons. You can write it in your own words, but drop it in the chat. Why did you start your business? Look. If you're still thinking, and it might be a bit of a long one, awesome. Thanks for sharing, Ben. Lifestyle and to make a difference, to look after family. I love that. Autonomy in running the structures that I want, profitability and independence. Awesome. Love it. And essentially, it kind of it's kind of circling a few things here, right? So thanks for sharing, guys. When we talk about autonomy, we talk about lifestyle, freedom, and making a difference. It rarely is about just making money, right? It's really about just profit. All the profit's not evil, not a bad thing. We want to make profit. That's the commercial reality that we live in. But essentially, where it comes down to is usually what I see is one of three things. It's either profit, time, which usually equals happiness. Higher profit, more time for yourself equals happiness for yourself as well. And when we looked at this, funny enough, business valuation really ties closely to this as well. You would think that a business that would be valued very high would have high profitability and strong cash flow, and as well as reduces the owner reliance and time that you spend in the business. So as autonomous, I like that word, creating that freedom. Now, as an investor, they would like that as well. We want a machine that creates good profit, good cash, that creates good returns for investors. So when you talk about purchases or investors, that's what they want to look at as well. And when we overlay this with the basics of business valuation, it actually is quite similar. When we talk about higher profits and higher freedom of time, it all comes down to this formula here, where we use what we call the capitalization of profit methodology. There's many different ways you can value things in businesses. But one of the common ways that is valued is you take what we call adjusted profit. So this is not your day-to-day, going into zero, your accounting software and just looking at that profit. It's adjusted for any non-commercial line items in there, like adding back, things like donations. And because as a business owner, you might just do that at your own discretion, but it's not necessarily the core business. So we adjust that profit. One of the biggest adjustments we actually have is in small business, owner salaries, because owner salaries is unfortunately the one thing that is not usually paid at market. Usually business owners kind of use that lever to help the business a little bit in either creating more profit or profit or cash flow by paying themselves last, which makes sense to keep it alive because you'd rather the business stand on its own 2 feet rather than draining all of it through paying yourself. So what happens usually when we do business valuations is that's a big adjustment that we need to take into account. Have you paid yourself a market wage or not? So you might see at the bottom of your profit and loss quite a bit of profit sitting in there. The question you need to ask is, am I being paid appropriately, or am I even being paid at all? So if you run through a trust for some of our clients, they don't have a salary being put through in their P&L. So we need to adjust that so that it's commercial. The reason for that is when the new investors or business owners take over, they're going to either have to pay you a market wage or they have to pay someone else in the market to take over your role. So that's a big adjustment that usually we talk about in the process of valuing a business. So coming back to the surface, adjusted profit, once we have that commercial value of maintainable earnings that we're looking for, what is the business multiple? Now, this is more of the qualitative side of the business. There's a few factors that goes into this. Now, I've seen people use, and if you ever someone say, oh, in our industry, it's about 3 times multiple or 4 times multiple. If you can ask the question, how did you arrive at that? And if it's usually an industry accepted multiple, I would run away just because there's no science behind that. And we need to put some science behind it. I know it's a little bit hard because it's talking about the risk of the business. It's qualitative, not quantitative. And this is the part that makes business valuation can be quite challenging because you could have a really strong profit, but it could be very risky, the business, in the sense that you're either highly leveraged. It means that all your profits really is not coming back to you as an investor or as a business owner. It's actually going towards banks because you borrowed a lot of money to run the business. Or it could be high risk because you don't have the safeguards and governance in your business. So we're talking about not having the proper contracts in place, not having a succession plan with your team members, not having some of them not even having proper contracts in place for their services with their customers. So good profit, but it could just be nothing if something went wrong, right? So it's not safeguarding that. So we'll see some of that stuff, but the way that's why we use B-Star as well is they have a proprietary way of calculating this business multiple. We use B-Star when we do a business valuation. There's this thing called a risk and value driver assessment. So depending on the industry, it breaks it down per industry. And what it does is it sends out a list of questions that really trigger you to think about your business, but also it gives us a data to tell us what is your risk and value driver score. So it will tell us how high of a score are you, and we will benchmark that to the industry as well. Now, what's cool about this recently as well, they've developed it so that we can look at how are you scoring on each one of those questions to be able to benchmark that to the market, which we'll see after this, because one of the questions that we've seen a lot of business owners are interested to see is the owner reliance on the business. The question is very simple. How reliant is the business on you as the business owner? You can already guess, right? If it's a high reliance, it is causing a bit of risk, because if you leave, what happens to the relationships? Do the team members follow you? The customers, like, will the business essentially fall apart if you left? Or on the opposite end, if the business is not that reliant on you, you've over the years you've been able to work yourself out of the job of being the person that brings the money in the business, but it's still bringing in a strong profit. That makes it very attractive, thus reducing that risk score for the business itself. Now, there's other things that goes into the business multiple, but it is that's why I say run away if someone says just pick a number out of the air, because your business could be higher than most businesses, or it could be something that you need to improve on, and you shouldn't be using something that's just generally accepted. So what I'm saying is that there should be a bit of science towards this as well, a process to arrive to that. Now, once you take the adjusted profit, you times that business multiple. We've done the questionnaire. We've assessed what your business multiple looks like. What you get then is your business value. So that's the one that you go to market with, and you either, as a purchaser, you would read the report and go, I understand why. Now, I always say as well, business value is it's actually what ends up on the contract, right? I can send you all the reports that you want to try to justify your business value, but you need to also have a ready buyer. So that's an important part of the transaction as well. And it's important to also understand what is attractive to a buyer once they're ready as well. So when you do a proper business valuation report and you go through this process, what we're trying to do is limit the amount of question marks or red flags that they might spot. So in their due diligence, in the perfect world, you want to be able to hand over a report that says, here's everything that you can see through my business. It's very transparent. Here's the risk factors that you need to be aware of, and hence why this is the valuation that we've arrived at. So once that happens, as a buyer, they're more, I guess, secure in their decision. And also they might be aware, there might be certain things that might be requiring some improvement in your business, but they are definitely more aware. So when they arrive at that business valuation, there might still be some negotiations that happen around the deal and so on and so forth, which I won't go into too much detail today, but it gives them a really good ground to work with, rather than going with just a, profit and a generally accepted multiple. It just doesn't work that way. So what we want to try to get at, sorry,
or the alternative is the seller is fixated on a certain number in their head just because.
I've experienced that as well, right? It can be a bit of a self-reflecting tool as well, because like I said at the start, one of the big things that we've seen is there's a big knowledge gap about what is actually the value of my business, or what is the value I should be asking for the market for my business. So And sometimes it's inflated. It's only normal. We have a bit of a normal emotional connection as well to the business, but without the science behind it, or without the valuation report, you can't really say heads or tails whether or not it is the case.
Mm.
Now, if it's going to be inflated, you feel that it's going to be inflated, this report is going to tell you, it's going to give you the truth, by comparing that to the market as well. So it is a tool not only just for selling or exiting, it's also a tool for improvement as well. So if you've never done one before, business valuations is something that I would recommend doing as part of your journey towards exit, not when you're exiting. Does that make sense? Like you're trying to improve your value as you go along. So part of today is we're going to show you what are the things that we help our clients with, or the levers that they pull to help increase that business value. Now you can guess already, right? By looking at this formula, it's pretty simple. It's pretty simple, as if it's a press of a button, but simple in the sense of the theory is, you increase your profitability or you reduce your risk in the business, right? Now, sometimes the argument here is that you might have a strong profit, but your risk is really high. And sometimes the question is asked: is it better to increase profit, or is it better to increase our multiple? And if I ask you that question, right, like if I had a choice, do I increase $1 where it fits a multiple of four? Cool, it's $4. I increase it to $2, that's $8, right? Or do I increase the multiple? See what I'm trying to arrive at here? The multiple is actually the more powerful tool to increase your business value. A lot of people are fixated on the profit itself, which, don't get me wrong, it's important, but reducing the risk within your business is one of the biggest levers that you can have in increasing your business value as well, which we're
I
going
guess I absolutely agree there. I think the challenge though is to find a seller who can appreciate that and then use and understand that to accept your position on your multiple.
to.
So and I think that's where it comes back to the science of where did the multiple come from? Is it
Absolutely.
to get plucked from the higher end of industry accepted range, 3 to 5 times? And I pick five. Why did you pick five? Oh, okay.
And you have to argue, if you don't have anything backing that, how are you going to argue that position, right?
Hmm.
So, and this is where the qualitative nature of your business is actually the crux of your business value, right? Because profit's profit, it's cool, yeah, but how secure is that business? It makes a big difference, massive difference. So I've kind of jumped ahead a little bit with my slides here, but you can see higher profit, less hours, more happiness for the business owners usually it equates to increase in business value. That's where we overlay those two things. So when you set out to start your business, at the start, we said, why did you start your business? And you shared a little bit with us there, autonomy, lifestyle. It's, are we working towards that? Are we working in creating a business that provides us that? Because that's not only attractive for us, it's good for us as businesses, but it also makes your business value increase. So some of those challenges in arriving at a business that provides more profit and more happiness is both part in qualitative and quantitative nature as well. So what are the levers, right? What are the things that we need to look for? What essentially has been done is a big survey that through the Rev does, that has been, well, sorry for using acronyms, the risk and value driver assessments that has been submitted by many business owners through B-Star. What we were able to do is identify what are the top 7 concerns that are keeping business owners awake at night. Now, in other words, what are the top 7 high risk areas of the businesses that we see? Okay. What does it tell us? It tells us some things about business owners. It tells us what are the things that create a lot of risk. What are the things that can be improved if you wanted to beat the market? So through that RAFTA survey that was done, there are some surprising facts. Number one, you would think it's profitability, right? And I've kind of talked about this, given, let the cat out of the bag here a little bit, but it's actually not. It's not even cash flow. It's not profitability. The number one concern for most business owners is that the business is too reliant on them as a business owner. So out of the 2,791 business owners, they've rated the number one concern as the reliance on them. See, which is, again, it's not intuitive when you think about business valuation. You go like, oh, it should be profitability, right? And we look at that only 5% believe that the business would run without them. So here's the bar charts here, and I'll explain that in a second. Anything in kind of turquoise green here. When we ask the question, how reliant is the business on you? 5% is saying none. So it kind of shows you already, like if you want to really be at the top end of your industry, and this is not industry specific, this is all the RevDers that's been submitted. Now, if you want to be industry specific, you can go into your industry, and I bet you that there's going to be the same question asked, and it's going to be the same because it's just samples. I'm going to statistics, but it's just samples and how that works. It will show up that business owner reliance is a big concern for a lot of businesses. Now, if it already tells you that if you want to stand out and if you want to beat the market or lower the risk and increase your multiple, that's the number one thing you should be working on. So the question you should be asking yourself right now is, how reliant is your business on you? Are you the one that's bringing most of the sales in? Are you the one that's also making sure the team is running smoothly and you're doing all you can? Or are you the one that holds all the cards, the relationships? What happens if we removed you out of that picture? What vacuum does it create? So it tells you already what are the things that you should be trying to work yourself out of. If it is going to be a challenge, that's obviously, in some industries, it's no way that we can do it. It's only me. It's about minimizing it as much as possible, right? So, and we can see here the moderate to very high to moderate. It's more than half. It's nearly, it's nearly 70-80% here, which is insane, right? And which most business owners are trying not to be the reason why they're in business. They're trying to have freedom, but that's not what's showing right now. Now, the number two concern is the owner's goodwill, which is similar to kind of in the same boat as owner's reliance. But what is the impact of the owner on staff and customers? Is it high or low? And only 23%, which is this bar here, of business owners are saying that their departure would have no impact. The questions that you see at the top here around owner reliance and impact, this is part of that RAVDA I was talking about, risk and value driver assessment, but it will tell you where your business is at. So what it's saying here is that if you are on this end, businesses that are not owner reliant generate higher valuations, and it kind of is self-explanatory there when I talked about how the valuations work previously. Now, we move to the next slide. Only concern number three, not the first two. The third concern is only profitability, which again, the statistics are a bit surprising because when we look at the numbers, the question is asking here, what is your current year increase in earnings before interest and taxes as a percentage of sales? In English, it's just saying, what's the increase in your profit year on year in a percentage of sales? So 69% out of all those business owners that answered this questionnaire said that their profit growth is less than 10%. So we're talking about trajectory and growth of your business. How quickly is it growing? It's less than 10% year on year. So that means that it's either stagnant, the same, or not growing, right? Which is scary to think because that's more than half of business owners not having growth in the business. So obviously the challenge there is around what kind of market share are you trying to grab? What are your strategies around market share acquisition? And what are you doing towards that? What are your strategies? Are you increasing, ad spend, trying to get more revenue? Or are you trying to also reduce your expenses? Because this is about profit. So it's not just about your sales growth. It's about how you control your business profitability year on year. Is it increasing or not as a percentage of sales? Which is scary to think because 10% is not much in increase year on year. And what we want to try to do is focus on the two levers, which is obviously bringing in more sales or spending less in the business. Those are the two levers that we can create a higher percentage of EBIT as a percentage of sales. And usually what I see is that we're doing the same things year on year, right? We're trying to get more sales, or people would say, there's no more expenses I can cut, right? And depending on your industry, there's definitely some strategies in terms of different income streams as well, and the way that you might even package your business services or products that can deliver a higher margin as well with using the same amount of resources, same or less amount of resources, and but being creative about that. Now, the fourth concern that we have is around cash reserves. Um, it just shows that a lot of businesses are facing a bit of a strain in their cash flow, which means that they're either fighting, you know, the term week to week or check of one pay period to another pay period. They don't have much to fall on, which again increases the risk of the business itself. You have to fight for every dollar to make sure that you are just secure in the business. Or another way to look at it is there's not enough cash reserves to also reinvest or grow the business itself. So when we look at that, 76%, and a large proportion of that is showing 57% of that is showing that they don't have, they only have limited cash reserves. Sorry, this color is a bit confusing, but 76% is the total of all of that. And only 4% is saying the business is not viable. And 15% is saying no reserves. So when you total that up, it's nearly 2/3 of that of the business population is showing that they don't have any cash reserves or have very limited cash reserves to be able to either expand or pay a good amount of profit back out. It's either being used to pay debts, or there's just not enough profit to create that buffer in the first place. Year on year, it's just rolling itself in and out. So cash reserves is a really powerful thing, because as investors, we want to know, right? Like quite quickly, especially if we're investing quite a lot of money in that, our own money in that, how quickly can I get paid back in cash terms? Not in equity value, but in cash terms, right? So when we look at that structure of your balance sheet and trying to understand, why don't you have enough cash reserves? Is it a profitability issue, or is it the way your business is being funded or structured right now? And why? And how do we get into that position? And in the last, I want to say 5 years, there has been a bit of reliance on debt rather than building equity. With COVID coming through, there was a lot of short-term debts that business owners take over, and it's still hanging till today. I've got owners that are still dealing with the handouts that the government gave in terms of loans. They were good loans, but nevertheless still loans. And how do we structure that? And ATO debts, that's another thing that has been a big problem in the industry, or in businesses as well. We've had to borrow Pete to pay Paul quite a bit. We don't pay the ATO, we don't pay them on time. And now in the current financial year, the interest is also non-tax deductible, making that a lot worse as well. So you're actually in this debt snowball, and maybe that's that feeling of people going, well, I don't feel I'm getting ahead, right? And this is the cash reserves. If you see a large cash reserves and it's building year on year, you see something for the effort that you're creating in your business, So it's something that we really need to look at, and something different needs to happen to be able to change that. Obviously, it will increase your business value as well, but just in a general sense, day to day, if we're not seeing this happening, it can be quite tiring. And one of the reasons also people kind of want to leave their business, it's, I can't keep doing this if it's not creating that even if we just call it a feeling of progress within the business. So I can see why it's a concern for most business owners, right? Now, 5, 6, and 7. 5 is actually interesting. When we talk about a value gap, is something not a lot of people might think of, but business is a tool towards your financial freedom, or towards your, we call it retirement, or whatever your future goals look like. It is a tool to create that lifestyle that you want. So the question that was asked is, will the sale of your business fund retirement? And 84% of owners have either they don't know the value, or they have a gap in that value in their business. So it cannot support fully their retirement, or alarmingly, a large proportion of that 84%, 42% don't actually know their value. So if we think about all our assets on our personal balance sheet, right? Our life, our family, if we're putting all this effort into our business, I think it makes sense for us to understand what is actually the total value of that over the years, or what value are we working towards if we were ever to sell that, and to one day retire, and leave the business or leave the profession. What is the value that we're building? If we don't know that, we're kind of, what are we doing? We're flying a little bit blind here. And I know it's difficult because we're in the weeds of running the business, but it also gives us a bit of a North Star to work towards. All our efforts are, or should I say, the whole business's efforts is rowing towards the same direction in building this business value itself. So when we look at that 42%, I feel like if you just go through the process, and I've seen this, on the ground with businesses, just going through the process of valuing your business and using that as a bit of a benchmarking tool each year, it gives you a scoreboard to work towards. It's kind of like a weigh-in when you're trying to lose weight, right? If we don't know where we are, we don't know where we're going. It's just, we can be seemingly spinning our wheels. So that's interesting because if I would think about concerns for business owners, that I wouldn't think that would be on the top 7, right? Now, number 6, customer sensitivity. In SMEs, especially in the early stages of business, there's quite a bit of, and depending on the industry too, there's quite a bit of reliance on the customers, a certain segment of customers in your business, where the question is asked is how sensitive is your sales to customers? So is what percentage is making the top 10 customers percentage of total sales, how much of that is actually part of your sales? So 40% of business owners, more than 40% of sales comes from the top 10 customers. 33% of business owners are saying that. So if we look at your risk, right? And I'll tell the story without naming names. I have a client who has quite a big digital ad agency, and one of their top clients is one of their main source of income is one client, and it really depends on the mood of that client. It will also change their business course. So if when I say mood, it's more scientific than that. It's whether or not they're spending that year or not. If they're spending a lot of money in ads that year, their business does really well. We can see that logically already. Now, that's a high risk for an investor, right? So how secure is that contract? Are we in contract for the next 10 years, or is it a year-to-year contract? And also, what are our powers to negotiate that contract as well? Those are the things that investors will be looking at if there's such a big proportion of that. Now, Simona, I think you put through a question here. What is the ideal percentage of your top 10 clients? That's a great question. Now, it depends on your market. Now, let's take I like allied health because I deal with a lot of them, but let's say allied health businesses. It's unlikely that you're going to have a large percentage of that, right? So it's almost a non-issue because you have so many different clients. But what you might want to look at is maybe the breakdown of the income stream itself. Now, some of my allied health clients have a lot of NDIS income, which again has risk when it comes to that. What if NDIS laws change, or any policies change with NDIS? The government decides to take some of the funding away. Our business might be in a rut, right? So it depends on your industry is the answer, but Ben's helped a little bit here. As low as you can get is probably where we want to achieve. It's a question of diversification, right? Not only in the customer, in the number of customers, but also thinking from an income stream perspective as well. In the accounting industry, just to share, it's there's taxes compliance as well, but we can see that changing over time already, where they're trying to simplify that, and a lot of AI and automation is coming to help change that. So what we're having to do is to think about how can we sustain the business, not only sustain, but grow the business in other ways as well, right? So some advisory services, it's about future-proofing your business here. So if your industry, you're looking forward into a lot of changes that might come in, that's where your rev does score. You do it now, you might do it in the future, it might actually decrease unless you're doing some steps towards changing that. So the question is as low as you can get, but it really depends on your industry as well. There's no right number. And what the good thing about the software that we use is we can actually benchmark that against the industry. So you might answer, I'll just pick on you, Simone, like you might answer 13%, right? But this is not specific to your industry, but it might actually be okay because in that industry, your most of the industry is sitting, sorry, it's 31 to 40% here. You might be 31 to 40%, but most of the industry is actually sitting at 40. So you might actually be better off in the industry. So we need to look at that information as well. Matt, for allied health, there is a very similar parallel relating to the number of referral sources for the business creating high and low risk. Yes, exactly. Referral sources is a really important part of, again, industry specific here, but in allied health, that is a very important part of the business from a model perspective, because I also have clients that have, one referral source and they rely on that, although they might have different types of services provided. But think of their funnel; they only have one funnel. I mean, that's a bit dramatic, but if they have only one funnel, let's say DVA, it's a funnel. I mean, who wants to just do DVA? But that can be an issue, right? So you need to think also from the funnel's perspective. Very, very true. Yeah, good observation there, Matt. Now, the last concern, not of all time, but just for today, is the cash flow. Again, this is surprising, right? Like, yes, man.
Sorry, just thought something that's very related to customer sensitivity, particularly in health or anything where government policy is really impacts what businesses can get paid. Like we see this with NDIS. You mentioned DVA. Like there's a lot of industries that benefit from DVA customers, and yeah. So where I'm going with this is I don't think it's just necessarily the percent of your biggest client if you think about it on a per person basis. But I think the other thing to think about is what impact does government policy and changes to that could
That's
have
right.
on your client base. So if it wipes out a whole segment, for instance, let's say your business is 30% DVA work. And I'm even thinking like my father-in-law gets DVA jobs. He runs taxis in a rural town. Like
Yes.
DVA impacts him
Yeah.
in like he gets work from there. Um, so yeah, what I'm trying to say is where government policy could change, then I would also consider that as part of. I think there's a
Well,
separate question on the RAVDA.
exactly. I was just about to say there's actually an industry questionnaire section in the RAVDA that we go through as well, talking about your industry itself. And you'll see when we benchmark that against how other people answer as well, it usually follows a certain pattern because obviously those are known things. NDIS is changing or has changed, in the last 12 months. So um, it is and I guess the idea there is to know where are you against the market. Are you ahead, behind? Are you above the industry benchmark? Are
Mm.
you in the top 20%? Some areas of your business you might be really, really good, right? Like if let's say your customer reliance, you might be sitting at kind of in this end of the spectrum where you're low reliance on or none to low. I mean, that's amazing, right? But what are the other areas? How are you doing those other areas? So doing that RevDAR will really give you that starting position of understanding where my valuation sits. Now, again, we're harping about this RevDAR because it directly impacts the multiple of your business valuation, right? As we said, it's one of the big levers that we need to be focusing on. Cool. So what we're noticing also, there's a big education gap, right? So out of all those concerns and what we've seen in the market, many business owners have a non-financial KPI education gap. When I talk a lot of business owners, when I talk about their numbers, relatively, they're really good with their numbers. They know, how much they charge their clients, how much margin that makes, what's the cost in, operating costs in rent and people or admin. They know that pretty well. They know what their profit margins are. It's pretty easy to see when it's like, oh, we've had low sales months. That's why we don't have a profit. But the biggest gap that they have when it comes to valuing is actually the non-financial side. So as we've seen before, 42% need more information on what their business is worth to kind of start off with. They know what their profitability might be. Um, Now, we also know that financial KPIs like profit margin, EBIT as a percentage of sales, admin cost as a percentage of sales, or rent as a percentage of sales. These are some stuff that business owners intuitively would work themselves out, or they have readily available financial KPIs. You talk about ratios and stuff that you can even Google them. It's just available. Whereas non-financial KPIs, when we talk about your industry, there's a massive lack of understanding, massive gap. So this is where we're trying to fill that gap in. And funny enough, if that's the part that creates the biggest impact in your business valuation, why don't we have KPIs for this stuff? Right? Or why are we not aware of this stuff? Because it's not easy. There's just so many different parts. So with the RevDA, it tries to structure this even more. It tries to give you those bits and pieces about your business that you need to be focusing on, and how it shows up as is kind of like a traffic light. It's red and orange and green, and it shows you in those areas where you can improve as well. And a fact is, a lot of business owners have their wealth tied up in their business because that's where we spend most of our capital, our time, our energy, our emotions. Even me, I'm here right now. I have a newborn. Like it's all part of life. But if we are doing that already, and we have quite a bit of our wealth tied up, or our end game is tied up in there, we should be looking at both parts of the equation, not just the non-financial side. Sorry, not just the financial side, but also non-financial, or even just understanding what our valuation should be, so that if we ever to choose to walk away, we're secure in that, knowing that this can provide for the lifestyle or the family lifestyle that I want. So if where does that lead to? How can we help? How can we help plug that gap? So through our partnership with B-Star, we work with our clients, going through their RAVDA. This is what we do at Inspire, where both, like I said, clients who are trying to exit, sell in the next few years, but also clients who are just trying to get an understanding of where they're at and what they can do to improve their value. So here, the sample report that you can see here, this is what a risk and value driver assessment looks like. It's a scorecard. It shows what your score is. That's not the multiple itself, and we can explain that differently. But that's just the RAVDA score itself comparatively to the industry standard and industry benchmark, and then it gives you, like I said, that traffic light of which areas are you strong, average, or weak. And then obviously we can build a bit of a timeline to track your progress on how you're increasing those areas. So yeah, these are the headings that you can see here. I think this is for allied health. But there will be different headings for different types of industry. It's industry specific. It is allied health. It is physiotherapist. It is those different headings, but it's about 80 plus in questions that we answer. And we benchmark not only just the score, we benchmark on each one of those areas, how you're doing compared to the market. Now, what's behind here is the industry financial performance benchmark. So this is the one that's I talked about, readily available. If you even just Google, even you chat GPT, what are some KPIs and ratios I should be tracking as a business? These are pretty available, but what the difference here with the RevDA, the B-Star software that we use. This is for business owners that have used the software. We track that information as well, just to see how is the top 20% or the industry is doing, the benchmark of the top 20% of the industry, or the industry standard or average is doing in those areas as well. Again, it's helpful, obviously, to know as well where your financial stance is, profitability wise, so on and so forth. So that question that you had before, sorry, was it Simona or Matt? I think it was Simona, around the ideal percentage of your top 10 clients. Yeah, it will be in this report here. So I highly recommend you to do it. And obviously, if you want to chat to us about this from this point onwards, we can obviously break that down for you to give you a more personalized one-on-one approach. There is a QR code on the screen there. You can scan that and it will take you to a page for you to either go and do it. Now, it is free for Inspire clients to go and do this. So if you're part of our client base and you're watching this, scan that QR code or click the link. I think Rose might post that in the chat somewhere. you can go ahead and do that, and then just reach out to your what we'll get notifications of when you fill it in, and reach out to your accountant at Inspire, and then we can obviously book a meeting to talk about that. Now, if you're a non-client watching this and you're interested to take part and you want to understand a little bit of your business, a bit more about your business value, it's $100 plus GSC for non-clients. And again, it's through the same link and QR code. It's just you'll pick the options there, and essentially it will take you to a screen where you make payment, and also you get that access to that questionnaire. But Rose on our team here, she helps us out with all this stuff in the background, and JB as well. So if you do have any questions when you go through that process, they are your main point of contact. So we've gone through, oops, I think that's just taking to the page. We've gone through oops, doing that again, sorry, just press next. So we've gone through the concerns and the levers, and I guess from here, really, if you're sitting there going, all right, what do I need to do? What do I need to actually go and do to help increase? What are the parts of the business specifically I need to go to? It starts with the router. It starts with assessing your business first and understanding where you are at right now. And then we go and strategize what are the key things that you need to try and improve on to make sure that we get a business version. Now, the other step that we can take is, well, if you're closer to you have a exit coming up, or you're in the midst of looking for buyers, you're kind of at that stage, we also provide business valuation services as well, and if you need that help to understand what the market you should expect from the market, at least as a minimum on what your, I want to say minimum, as a maximum even of your business value, that's something that you can go through with us as well, and we can help you get an understanding what your business value is at. So there's a link there. You can book a chat as well. If you just want to chat generally as well, give us a bit more context rather than just doing the RevDo, so that we can start that conversation there as well. Cool. That's about bang on time. I'm going to leave a bit of time for questions or anything that you might have. If you do like our content, you like the webinars that we do, or you've been here before, please share it with your friends, family, other people who are going through a similar journey that need a bit of help, a bit of clarity. We just love building this community that we have worked hard over the last decade to provide more value and content. So you can find us on a lot of different areas in the socials. You can see all of that. If you search Inspire Accountants, will pop up everywhere. So feel free to do that. And we do have other webinars coming up as well, but I think it might be in the new year instead. I can't believe it's almost December. It's crazy. My wife's already starting to put up the Christmas lights. But yeah, thank you again for everyone who joined us today, and apologies for the start, a little bit awkward with the music and dramas at the start, but thanks for your patience, and I appreciate everyone's time. But if you do have any questions, feel free to drop them in there. We can have a chat and talk about it in the next kind of couple minutes. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, JB. Thanks, Rose.
Beautiful. Yeah. I think there's probably still a few people on, but I think the other thing that I think we're going to see more of is people needing some help with buying businesses, because
that's true.
It seems like there's going to be a massive amount of businesses for sale and increasing over the next, I reckon, 5 to 10 years. And more conversations with people about it now.
Got business owners in the same boat where they've done well out of the last 5 years, and they're sitting on a bit of equity and capital. They're looking for those kind of opportunities because they already have the properties, they already have the shares, they already have the SMSF purchasing their commercial. They've done all those bits and bobs already, and at that stage of going and becoming almost like a PE fund, where they're trying to provide more equity for business owners, and whether that's in the same industry or not, they're just trying to look for more opportunities. So and I have clients that's come to me, it's like, Riz, can you assess this business? Here's the financials, let me know what you think. It's really powerful, that tool, because again, it gives you that base to start off of, like, okay, where do we go from here if we were to put an offer in? And there's some funny enough, it actually helps them steer away from some deals that you just don't want to touch, because once you dig into it, especially when it comes to using a industry accepted multiple, it's I've seen situations where it's chalk and cheese, what the reality would be,
Mm.
versus what we would have just paid for. So it really
And you,
does that hardened capital that they've accumulated over that time.
yeah, and you can very easily or quickly see a prepared seller versus someone who's attached to a figure or has some weird ideas in terms of value. Yeah. Or the good old, 3-year forecast on the back of the napkin. It was a
That's
good
right.
one a few years ago, wasn't
Yeah, yeah.
it?
What the number? It is, yeah. Yeah. It happens a lot, and I think it's we need to be specific about it. We need to ask the right questions to only to get the information we can to make the decision. So I don't think it should ever be run away, run away if it's ever said,
Mm.
oh, really accepted 3 times, 4 times. Yeah.
Beautiful. Alrighty. Well, thank you very much, Fritz.
Thanks for joining
Wonderful.
as well. Thanks for always taking the time. And yeah, for those of you who did join us, are still here. We'll probably leave now, but have a great rest of your day.
Hi. See you later.
See
Bye.
ya.